The force rippled across Coruscant like a stone thrown into still water, and every Jedi in the temple felt it simultaneously. A disturbance that was neither light nor dark, neither born of the living force nor the cosmic force, but something entirely other. In the council chambers, Master Yoda's ears twitched sharply. "Feel that, do you? A presence, neither Jedi nor Sith. Powerful, ancient, yet lost." Mace Windu was already standing, his hand on his lightsaber. It came from the lower industrial sector. Temple guards are responding now. What the Jedi didn't know was that in an abandoned warehouse 3 kilometers below the gleaming temple spires, Dr. Stephen Strange was having a very bad day. The portal he'd opened, a precise calculation using the sling ring to investigate dimensional anomalies emanating from this reality, had collapsed the moment he stepped through. Strange stood in the center of a rusted storage facility, his cloak of levitation billowing despite the absence of wind, the eye of Agamotto glowing softly against his chest. "Well," Strange muttered, gesturing with his scarred hands to create diagnostic runes that floated in the air, analyzing the dimensional structure around him. "This is problematic. The mystical energy signature here is completely different from Earth's. It's not drawing from the dark dimension or any of the known mystical realms. It's everywhere, permeating everything, like the universe itself is conscious." He'd encountered the Force in his research. Ancient texts at Kamartaj mentioned it as a parallel universal energy, mystical in nature but following different rules than the arts he'd mastered. But reading about it and standing immersed in it were very different experiences. "Wong is going to be insufferable about this," Strange said to himself. "I can hear him now. I told you not to investigate unknown dimensional anomalies without backup." "Yes, well, Wong isn't the Sorcerer Supreme, is he?" The cloak tugged at his shoulders urgently. "I know," Strange replied to his sentient garment. "Company's coming. I can feel them. Their energy signatures are connected to this force, but they're rigid, structured, like they're channeling a river through carefully constructed aqueducts instead of simply riding the current." Golden portals began opening around him. Not his sling ring portals, but something else. Technological portals? No, wait. Those were people. Humanoids in armor that somehow bent space itself to teleport. Temple guards materialized in a circle around Strange, their lightsaber pikes igniting with yellow blades that hummed with contained energy. Behind their masks, Strange could sense confusion and caution. They'd expected a dark force user, perhaps a Sith. What they found was something their training hadn't prepared them for. "By order of the Jedi Council," one guard announced, "you will surrender immediately and submit to questioning. You are under arrest for unauthorized force, manipulation, and creating a disturbance in the—" Strange created a Tau Mandala shield. With a gesture, the golden mystical energy springing into existence, just as one guard moved to strike him with a paralytic stun. The lightsaber pike bounced off the shield, and Strange could feel the guard's shock. "Fascinating," Strange said, studying the lightsaber with professional interest. "Plasma contained in a magnetic field? Elegant. But gentlemen, I'm not here to fight. I'm Dr. Stephen Strange, Sorcerer Supreme of Earth, Master of the Mystic Arts. I was investigating dimensional anomalies when I accidentally crossed into your universe. If you'll just give me a moment to recalibrate my sling ring, I'll be out of your way." He tried to open a portal home. The sling ring sparked, but nothing happened. "Your magic is forbidden," another guard said, and Strange detected genuine fear in the statement. "No one but the Sith uses such powers. You will come with us." "I'm not a Sith. I don't even know what that is," Strange replied. "And my magic is the mystic arts, ancient disciplines studied for millennia on my world. Look, I understand this is unusual, but I'm not your enemy. I'm a protector of reality. I've fought dimensional tyrants, time paradoxes, and existential threats you couldn't imagine. The last thing I want is conflict with the local mystical authorities." The guards advanced cautiously. Strange sighed. "I really didn't want to do this," he muttered. then gestured sharply. The mirror dimension opened around them. Not a portal, but a complete dimensional shift. The warehouse suddenly fractured into impossible geometric patterns, walls folding into crystalline structures, reality becoming mutable and strange. The temple guard stumbled as the ground beneath them shifted like water. "This is the mirror dimension," Strange explained calmly, walking on vertical surfaces as if they were horizontal. "An exact reflection of your reality, but completely malleable to those who know how to manipulate it. Nothing I do here affects the real world. Watch." He gestured, and an entire city block folded into origami. The guards' weapons suddenly became useless as their strikes simply warped space around Strange without touching him. "I'm demonstrating this to prove I'm not hostile," Strange continued. "If I wanted to harm you, I could, but I don't. I'm trying to cooperate. However, I won't be imprisoned by people who mistake discipline for darkness simply because it's unfamiliar to them." He released the mirror dimension, and they all snapped back to normal reality. The guards were shaken but unharmed. "Now then," Strange said, his cloak settling around his shoulders, "I believe you wanted to take me to your leadership. I'd very much like to meet them. I have questions about this force of yours, and more importantly," his expression darkened, "I've detected something extremely disturbing in this city. A corruption, a darkness that's hidden itself so perfectly that you can't even see it. But it's there, festering, waiting. And if my experience with dimensional corruption is any guide, you don't have much time before it makes its move." The temple guards, thoroughly outmatched and deeply confused, did the only thing they could do. They escorted the strange wizard in the floating red cape to the Jedi temple, where he could become someone else's problem. The Jedi Council chamber was designed to inspire reverence and contemplation. 12 seats arranged in a circle, each occupied by a master of the Force, with windows overlooking Coruscant's endless cityscape. It was meant to be a place where wisdom guided the galaxy. Dr. Strange, standing in the center with his arms crossed and his cloak occasionally reaching out to touch things with apparent curiosity, looked distinctly unimpressed. "So," Strange said, his analytical gaze moving from master to master, "you're the Jedi Council, the mystical authorities of this galaxy. Impressive resumes, I'm sure. Master Yoda." He nodded to the ancient being. "Your age alone suggests vast experience." "Master Windu," another nod. "I can sense significant power in you, rigidly controlled. The rest of you," he waved dismissively. "Various levels of competence, no doubt." Mace Windu's expression darkened. "You stand before the Jedi High Council, charged with illegal use of Force abilities and creating a massive disturbance." "I didn't use Force abilities," Strange interrupted. "I used the mystic arts. Completely different discipline, different energy source, different philosophical foundation. It's like accusing a surgeon of practicing psychology because we both work with humans. Related fields, different expertise. Sense you in the Force, we cannot," Yoda observed, his tone thoughtful rather than accusatory. "A void, you are. Yet power you clearly possess. Explain this, you will." "Because I'm not connected to your Force," Strange said, creating a small mystical mandala in his palm to demonstrate. "Where I come from, we draw power from various mystical dimensions. The crimson bands of Sitarak, the bolts of Balthak, the Vishanti's blessings. We study ancient texts, learn precise gestures and incantations, and channel energy through will and discipline. It's not biological or genetic like your Force appears to be. It's learned. Surgical precision applied to reality manipulation." Ki-Adi-Mundi leaned forward. "This magic you speak of, it sounds dangerously similar to Sith sorcery. Dark arts forbidden to the Jedi." "I'm not a Sith," Strange said with visible patience. "I don't even know what a Sith is, though I'm getting the impression they're your resident evil mystical cult. But gentlemen and ladies," he nodded to the female council members, "I didn't come here to debate magical philosophy. I came here because I detected dimensional anomalies emanating from your reality. And when I investigated, I found something deeply concerning. And, "What's that?" Obi-Wan Kenobi asked, his tone more curious than hostile. Strange's expression became grave. "You're being manipulated. Your entire republic, your Jedi Order, this war you're fighting, it's a setup. I've seen this pattern before when I studied dimensional conquest. There's a darkness in this city, hidden so perfectly that you can't detect it through your force. But I can sense it through mystical means. And that darkness is orchestrating everything." The council chamber erupted in denial and outrage. Several masters spoke at once, dismissing his claims as paranoia or deception. "Silence," Yoda commanded, and the chamber quieted. His ancient eyes studied Strange with unsettling intensity. "This darkness, where is it?" "Your Senate building," Strange said flatly. "Specifically in the office of your Supreme Chancellor. Palpatine? That's his name? He radiates corruption so intense that I'm frankly shocked you can't sense it. It's like standing next to a bonfire and claiming you can't feel the heat." "That's impossible," Mace Windu said sharply. "Chancellor Palpatine has served the Republic for years. We would sense if he were—" "Would you?" Strange interrupted. "Because from what I've observed in the last hour, your force sensitivity seems to have significant blind spots. You didn't sense me until I opened a portal. You can't detect the Chancellor's corruption. You seem to have convinced yourselves that the Sith, your ancient enemies, are extinct, despite the fact that your history shows they always survive in hiding. That's not wisdom. That's willful blindness." "You dare," Ki-Adi-Mundi started. "I dare," Strange said firmly, "because I've seen what happens when mystical authorities become arrogant and ignore warnings. I was one of them. I was a surgeon, best hands in my field, ego to match. I thought I knew everything, that my way was the only way. Then I got into an accident, destroyed my hands, lost everything. It took a mystical mentor showing me I was a fool before I could learn actual wisdom." He held up his hands, and the council members could see the tremor, the scarring, the permanent damage. "These hands were once capable of surgical miracles," Strange continued quietly. "Now they shake. But I learned to channel power through them anyway, because I stopped insisting the universe work according to my expectations. You're making the same mistake I did, assuming your understanding is complete. Your perceptions are perfect. Your way is the only way. And it's going to destroy you." Yoda was silent for a long moment. "Dangerous, your words are. Yet, familiar, they feel. The arrogance you describe, see it in the mirror. I do." He looked at his fellow council members. "Perhaps listen, we should. At least verify his claims before dismiss them. We do." "Master Yoda," Mace Windu protested. "We can't simply accept—" "I can prove it," Strange said, reaching into his robes. Several Jedi's hands moved to their lightsabers, but Strange simply withdrew the eye of Agamotto. The artifact opened, revealing the Time Stone, a green gem that pulsed with power that made every force sensitive in the room feel a sudden chill. "What is that?" Obi-Wan breathed. "The Time Stone," Strange replied. "One of 6 infinity stones that govern fundamental aspects of reality in my universe. This one controls time itself. And with it, I can show you something you've been unable to see. The future." "The future is always in motion," Yoda said warily. "Predict it with certainty, no one can." "You're right, to a point," Strange agreed. "There are always multiple possibilities, branching timelines, quantum uncertainties, but certain events have momentum, inevitability, and I've made a specialty of viewing possible futures." His expression became haunted. "In my universe, we faced an enemy called Thanos. To defeat him, I viewed 14,605 possible futures. In only one did we win. One. That's how I learned to see not just what will happen, but what must happen to achieve the outcome you need." He raised his hands, arcane symbols glowing around them, and the Time Stone activated. The green energy spread through the chamber, and suddenly the council members saw visions, fragmentary, overwhelming, terrible. Clones turning on Jedi, Order 66. The temple burning. Younglings slaughtered. The Republic transforming into an empire. Palpatine revealed as Darth Sidious, Dark Lord of the Sith. And through it all, one figure. Anakin Skywalker, fallen to darkness, becoming Darth Vader. The visions ended. Several council members were visibly shaken. Mace Windu had ignited his lightsaber reflexively, as if he could cut the future itself. "That's one possible future," Strange said quietly, returning the time stone to dormancy. "Perhaps the most likely, given current trajectories. But it's not certain. Not yet. The future can be changed. I've done it before. But only if you're willing to admit you might be wrong about some fundamental assumptions." "These visions," Obi-Wan said, his voice strained. "They could be false. Sith manipulation. They could be," Strange agreed. "But they're not. Your heart knows that. I can see it in your face. Everything I showed you felt right, didn't it? Like puzzle pieces clicking into place. Your gut has been telling you something's wrong for months, maybe years. You've just been ignoring it." Yoda closed his eyes. "See it, I must admit. I did. Feel it, I have. This disturbance. But understand it, I could not. Clouded, the Force has become uncertain. Because it's being clouded deliberately," Strange said. "Palpatine, or Sidious, or whatever he calls himself, has been manipulating the Force itself. Hiding his presence, steering events, orchestrating this war from both sides. It's brilliant, really. Diabolical, but brilliant. He's convinced you to become generals in his war, compromising your principles while accumulating emergency powers that he'll use to transform your democracy into a dictatorship. If this is true," Mace Windu said slowly, clearly struggling with the implications, "why didn't we sense it?" "Because you're looking for what you expect to find," Strange replied. "You expect Sith to feel dark, obviously evil, radiating malevolence. But this one's hidden himself behind layers of political theater and careful manipulation. He's playing a role: kindly chancellor, beleaguered leader, defender of democracy. And you've all accepted that role because questioning it would be inconvenient." The truth of that statement hung in the air like a blade. "What would you have us do?" Obi-Wan asked finally. "First, let me investigate properly," Strange said. "Give me access to your medical facilities. I need to examine the clone troopers. I suspect there's something in their biology that makes Order 66 possible. Second, allow me to use my mystical abilities to bypass Palpatine's concealment. If I'm right, I can prove his identity beyond doubt. And third," he looked directly at Mace Windu, "you need to be open to the possibility that your way isn't the only way. That maybe, just maybe, an outsider who practices forbidden sorcery might know things your tradition has forgotten." "And if we refuse?" Ki-Adi-Mundi asked. Strange's expression hardened. "Then I'll do it anyway. Because I've fought too hard, sacrificed too much, and seen too many realities fall to corruption to stand by while another one commits suicide through willful ignorance. The Ancient One taught me that protecting reality isn't about following rules. It's about making the hard choices when everyone else is too comfortable to act." He looked around at the assembled masters, his gaze challenging them to prove him wrong. "So," Strange said, "are we going to work together? Or am I going to have to save your galaxy despite you?" In the corner of the chamber, unseen and unannounced, Anakin Skywalker had been listening from the doorway. The young Jedi Knight had felt the disturbance, followed it to the council chambers, and heard everything. And as he watched this strange wizard casually challenge the most powerful Jedi in the galaxy, calling them blind and arrogant while demonstrating power that shouldn't be possible, Anakin felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. Hope that maybe someone finally understood the fear that consumed him, the darkness that tempted him, the struggle to control power while feeling emotion. Hope that maybe there was another way. "Master Windu," Anakin said, stepping into the chamber. "I think we should listen to him." Every eye turned to the young Jedi. Strange studied him with sudden intensity, and Anakin felt weirdly exposed, like this wizard could see things even Obi-Wan missed. "Anakin Skywalker," Strange said, and it wasn't a question. "I've seen you in the visions, seen what you could become, both the darkness and the light." He smiled slightly. "You're going to be important, young Jedi, perhaps the most important person in this galaxy. And I think you and I need to have a very serious conversation about power, fear, and the price of both. If you want to see more characters enter the Star Wars galaxy, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character you'd want to see in the comments below. May the Force be with you." The Jedi Temple's medical wing had never hosted anyone quite like Dr. Stephen Strange. "Fascinating," Strange muttered, examining a clone trooper's neural scans while his hands moved through complex diagnostic runes that floated in the air. The golden mystical symbols interfaced with the Republic medical equipment in ways that made the attending medical droid emit confused beeping sounds. The organic engineering is remarkable. Accelerated aging, enhanced combat responses, psychological conditioning. It's like someone took the human template and optimized it for warfare. Brilliant and horrifying in equal measure. Commander Cody, who'd volunteered for the examination after Obi-Wan vouched for Strange, watched the wizard work with visible unease. "Sir, if you don't mind me asking, what exactly are you looking for?" "Control mechanisms," Strange replied, his scarred hands gesturing to enlarge a portion of the neural scan. "I've dealt with mind control before. The Purple Man on Earth could control people through pheromones. The Mind Stone could manipulate thoughts. This," he highlighted a small organic structure at the base of Cody's brain, "is neither. It's biological, grown with you. A neural inhibitor chip that can override your conscious will with a single command." Cody's face went pale. "That's impossible. We'd know if—" "Would you?" Strange interrupted gently. "The chip is designed to be invisible to your own perception. When activated, it won't feel like you're being controlled. It'll feel like you're making a choice, a necessary choice, an obvious choice." He pulled up chemical analysis data. "The compound it releases floods your amygdala, suppresses your prefrontal cortex, and activates deep-seated conditioning that's been layered into your training since childhood. Order 66. Execute the Jedi. Won't feel like betrayal to you. It'll feel like finally recognizing that the Jedi were always traitors." "No," Cody said, standing abruptly. "We're loyal. We'd never—" "Not willingly," Strange agreed. "That's the insidious part. You're victims, not villains. Every clone trooper in the Republic military is carrying a biological timer set by whoever designed this system. And when that timer goes off—" He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Obi-Wan, who'd been observing from the doorway, stepped forward. "Can it be removed?" "Yes," Strange said. "It would require surgery, delicate surgery, given the location, but it's possible. I could do it myself. My hands may shake, but my mystical precision is perfect. Or your medical droids could be programmed with the procedure. The question is, how many clones can you free before whoever holds the activation codes realizes what you're doing?" "All of them." Anakin's voice came from behind Obi-Wan. The young Jedi had barely left Strange's side since the council session, drawn to the wizard like a moth to flame. "We free all of them. We don't leave any of our men enslaved." "Noble sentiment," Strange observed, studying Anakin with that unsettling intensity again. "But tactically impractical. There are millions of clone troopers scattered across the galaxy. Even with optimal conditions, you'd need months to reach them all. And the moment Palpatine realizes you're removing his kill switch, he'll activate it early." "Then what do you suggest?" Obi-Wan asked. Strange pulled up a holographic map of the Republic military. "Triage. Start with clones stationed on Coruscant and other core worlds, places where they'd do the most damage if Order 66 activated. Then priority commanders and specialized units. Create a network of freed clones who can help extract the chips from their brothers. Meanwhile," his expression darkened, "we deal with the source of the problem." "Palpatine," Anakin said. "Chancellor Palpatine," Strange corrected with dripping sarcasm. "Darth Sidious. The Sith Lord who's been playing both sides of this war like a puppet master." "Yes, him." That's the real problem. Cody looked between them, processing everything he'd heard. Sir, General Kenobi, is this true? The Chancellor is a Sith. The war is fake. We're investigating, Obi-Wan said carefully, the diplomat in him choosing his words. Dr. Strange has presented compelling evidence, but we need to verify before making accusations of that magnitude. I can verify, Strange said. Give me an hour and access to your Senate building. I'll get you proof that even the most skeptical council member can't dismiss. That's too dangerous, Obi-Wan protested. If Palpatine truly is Sidious, approaching him could what? He can't sense me through the Force. To him, I'm a void, an anomaly he can't predict or manipulate. That makes me uniquely qualified to investigate him. Strange's cloak swirled dramatically. Besides, I've faced worse. Dormammu was a multidimensional entity who could consume reality itself. Palpatine is just a very skilled politician with mystical powers. I'm not afraid of him. Maybe you should be, Anakin said quietly. I've known the Chancellor for years. If he's been hiding this the whole time, that means he's more dangerous than anyone realizes. Strange looked at Anakin with something approaching sympathy. You care about him. He's been a mentor, a friend, someone who understood you when the Jedi Council didn't. That's not weakness, Anakin. That's being human. But it's also how he's been manipulating you. You don't know, Anakin started. I know exactly, Strange interrupted. Because I've seen what you become in the timelines where he succeeds. I've seen Darth Vader, and I've seen the specific fears he's exploiting to turn you. Your fear of loss, your fear of not being strong enough, your fear that loving someone makes you weak. He's been whispering those fears into your mind for years, Anakin. Carefully, subtly, until you can't tell where your thoughts end and his influence begins. Anakin's hand went to his lightsaber, reflexively, not threatening but defensive. You're wrong. Am I? Strange gestured and mystical runes appeared showing Anakin's bio-readings. Accelerated heart rate, stress hormones, fight-or-flight response. Your body language says otherwise. You're terrified right now, not of me, of the possibility that I'm right. Because if I'm right, then everything Palpatine's told you is a lie. Every promise of power, every suggestion that the Jedi don't understand you, every hint that there's a way to prevent loss if you just embrace stronger emotions. All lies designed to lead you exactly where he wants you. Anakin, Obi-Wan said gently, placing a hand on his former Padawan's shoulder. Is there something you need to tell us? The young Jedi's internal struggle was visible. Finally, he told me he knew ways to prevent death, that the dark side had power to save people from dying. I wasn't going to. But you were tempted, Strange finished. Of course you were. You're in love, probably with someone the Jedi Code says you shouldn't be with. You've had visions of losing them, and Palpatine offered you a solution. He smiled sadly. It's a lie, Anakin. The dark side can't prevent death. It can only delay it by corrupting life itself. I've seen it. Dark magic that extends life but turns the user into something hollow, something that wishes it could die but can't. Is that what you want? No, Anakin whispered. Then you need to choose, Strange said firmly. Right now, before events spiral beyond control. Palpatine is going to make his move soon. I can feel it in the timeline's momentum. When he does, you'll be his primary target because you're the most powerful Jedi and the most vulnerable to his manipulation. He'll offer you something precious at the worst possible moment, and you'll have to decide. Do you trust the promise of power, or do you trust that doing the right thing is enough? How do I know which is right? Anakin asked, genuine anguish in his voice. You already know, Strange replied. You've always known. The question is whether you'll have the courage to act on that knowledge when it costs you everything you think you want. Before Anakin could respond, Strange's cloak suddenly wrapped around him protectively, yanking him backward just as a blast of Force lightning scorched the spot where he'd been standing. Strange raised his hands, and Tau Mandalas sprung to life, blocking the secondary assault. In the doorway stood a figure in dark robes, face hidden in shadow, radiating malevolence so intense that Cody actually stumbled backward. Well, the figure said in a voice that dripped with poison and silk. The mysterious sorcerer finally reveals himself. I must admit, Dr. Strange, you've been quite the inconvenience to my plans. Palpatine, Strange said, his voice cold. Or should I call you Darth Sidious? I've been looking forward to meeting you properly. The shadows fell away, revealing not the kindly Chancellor, but something far more terrible. Yellow eyes burning with dark side corruption, withered features twisted in malice, and a presence that made the Force itself feel sick. You look different without the makeup, Strange observed. How long have you been hiding that face? Decades, Sidious replied, his lightsaber igniting, the red blade casting bloody light across the medical wing. Long enough to weave a plan so intricate that even the combined wisdom of the Jedi Council couldn't perceive it. But you're not bound by the Force. You see with different eyes. That makes you dangerous. I've been called worse, Strange said, his hands moving through complex gestures. Golden mystical energy began to build. But I'm curious, how did you know I was here? I was careful to mask my mystical signature. I have eyes everywhere, Sidious smiled. And when a medical examination revealed my control chips to clone commanders, when whispers of chip removal began circulating through the military, I knew my timeline had been compromised. So I came to eliminate the source of contamination personally. You can try, Strange said. What followed was a battle between two completely different disciplines of mystical combat. Sidious attacked with Sith sorcery and Force manipulation, lightning that could kill Jedi masters, telekinetic assaults that could crush starships, dark side energy that corrupted life itself. Strange countered with the mystic arts, Tau mandalas that absorbed energy, eldritch whips that bound and struck, dimensional manipulation that bent space itself. But the real battle was tactical. Seraphim's shield. Strange conjured a barrier of golden light that caught Sidious's lightning and reflected it back at him. The Sith Lord dodged with supernatural speed. Impressive, Sidious acknowledged, unleashing a force push that should have shattered bones. Strange gestured, and the mirror dimension partially overlapped reality, causing the kinetic energy to disperse harmlessly into an alternate dimension. You're strong, Strange observed, his cloak deflecting debris. But you're predictable. Everything you do is about domination, forcing others to bend to your will. That's the fundamental weakness of the dark side. It's all about imposing your desires on reality. And what do your mystical arts teach? Sidious snarled, striking with his lightsaber. Strange conjured an eldritch blade that caught the energy weapon. Impossible, but happening anyway. That reality has rules, Strange replied, their weapons locked. And those who understand the rules can bend them. I've studied mystical disciplines for years. I've bargained with Dormammu, wielded the Time Stone, seen 14 million possible futures. You're powerful, Sidious, but I've faced entities that would consider you an insect. Then why haven't you killed me? Sidious's smile widened. Why hasn't this all-powerful sorcerer simply ended the threat? Is it possible you're not as strong as you claim? It's possible I'm playing a longer game, Strange replied. Killing you solves one problem, but might create worse ones. I've learned that lesson the hard way. Every action has consequences, and sometimes the direct solution creates more chaos than the patient one. Then you're weak, Sidious concluded, breaking the blade lock and attacking with renewed fury. Power unused is power wasted. Their battle tore through the medical wing. Sith lightning scorching walls, while mystical energy created impossible geometric patterns in reality. Obi-Wan and Anakin tried to intervene, but Strange shouted, "Stay back! This isn't your fight yet!" "Yet?" Obi-Wan echoed, but complied, pulling Anakin with him. Sidious realized he couldn't easily kill this sorcerer, so he shifted tactics. "Tell me, Dr. Strange, have you told your new Jedi friends everything? Have you explained what you've really been doing with that time stone?" Strange's expression flickered, just for a moment. "Ah," Sidious said, pleased. "You haven't. You haven't told them that you've been viewing timelines, calculating possibilities, manipulating events toward your preferred outcome. You haven't admitted that everything you're doing is just another form of control. You claim I'm a manipulator, but what are you? A puppet master who thinks his strings are more righteous than mine. There's a difference, Strange said, but his voice had lost some of its certainty. Is there? Sidious pressed. You're trying to force this galaxy onto a path you've decided is correct. You're overriding free will with destiny of your own choosing. You're no different than me, sorcerer. We're both just men who think we know better than everyone else. Strange stood still, and for a moment, Sidious thought he'd won the psychological battle. Then the sorcerer laughed, genuinely laughed. You know what? You're partially right, Strange admitted. I am arrogant. I do think I know better. The Ancient One called me out on that repeatedly. But here's the difference, Sidious. I learned. I learned that being right isn't enough. I learned that controlling outcomes, even for good reasons, is just another form of tyranny. I learned that the only thing worth protecting is people's right to choose, even if they choose badly. His hands moved through new gestures, and the eye of Agamotto began to glow. So no, Strange continued, I'm not going to use the Time Stone to force your defeat. I'm not going to rewrite reality to create my preferred outcome. I'm going to give the Jedi, the clones, Anakin, everyone. I'm going to give them information, options, and trust. Trust that when people know the truth and have real choices, they'll do the right thing. That's naive, Sidious spat. Maybe, Strange replied. But it's also the only way forward that doesn't make me a dictator with good intentions. And I've seen where that road leads. He gestured sharply, and golden portals opened around Sidious. Not attacks, but escapes. Strange wasn't trying to kill or capture the Sith Lord. He was giving him a way out. This is your chance, Strange said. Leave now, run, hide, because the next time we meet, it won't be me you're facing. It'll be Jedi who know the truth, clones who've been freed, and a galaxy that's seen your real face. Your web of lies is unraveling, Sidious. You can fight me here and maybe win, maybe lose, or you can retreat and try to salvage your plans. Choose quickly. For a long moment, Sidious considered attacking anyway. Then pragmatism won. He was powerful, but this sorcerer was genuinely dangerous. And more importantly, the longer this fight continued, the more witnesses would arrive. The Jedi Council was surely already responding to the disturbance. This isn't over, Sidious said, moving toward one of the portals. It never is, Strange replied. But it's ending. You just don't know it yet. Sidious vanished through the portal, which immediately closed behind him. Strange dismissed his mystical constructs and allowed himself a moment of exhaustion. Maintaining that level of combat while preventing collateral damage had been draining. Why did you let him go? Anakin demanded, rushing forward. We had him. We could have ended this. No, Strange said. You couldn't have. Not yet. Right now, it would be your word against his. A mysterious sorcerer making wild accusations against the beloved Chancellor. Even with Jedi support, half the Senate would claim I'm a separatist weapon. There would be civil war, chaos, uncertainty. Palpatine might lose, but the galaxy would tear itself apart in the process. Then what was the point? Obi-Wan asked. The point, Strange replied, was to force his hand. Make him reveal himself, compromise his position, accelerate his timeline before he's ready. Now he knows we know. Now he knows he can't hide forever. Now he has to make moves that will expose him further. It's called forcing an error in chess. You pressure your opponent until they make a mistake you can exploit. He looked at both Jedi seriously. Trust me, I've seen how this plays out across 14 million timelines. The versions where we attack him too early, when he's still politically secure, those end badly. The versions where we wait until he's exposed himself beyond all doubt, those give us a chance. A small chance, but a real one. You're gambling with the galaxy, Anakin said. Yes, Strange agreed. Because the alternative is me using the Time Stone to simply rewrite events, which would make me no better than him. And I refuse to become a benevolent dictator, no matter how tempting it is. Cody, who'd been silent through the entire confrontation, finally spoke. Sir, Dr. Strange, the chip, can you really remove it? Yes, Strange said firmly. Starting with you, if you're willing. And then we start a chain reaction. Every freed clone frees his brothers, spreads the word, builds a resistance within the Grand Army itself. By the time Palpatine tries to activate Order 66, enough of you will be free that it'll be a battle instead of a massacre. Do it, Cody said without hesitation. Free us. All of us. Strange nodded and began the procedure, his hands glowing with mystical precision as he performed the most delicate surgery of his life. And in the halls of power, Darth Sidious returned to his Chancellor's office, his face once again disguised, his plans in disarray, and for the first time in decades, genuine uncertainty in his ancient heart. The sorcerer had changed everything. The careful web of lies was unraveling, and time was running out. 3 days after the confrontation in the medical wing, Dr. Strange stood in a hidden chamber beneath the Jedi Temple, surrounded by masters who'd finally agreed to hear his full assessment. The room was warded. Strange's mystical barriers combined with Jedi Force techniques to create a space where no one could eavesdrop, not even a Sith Lord. "Show us," Mace Windu said, his skepticism worn down by reports of Sidious's attack and the evidence of the inhibitor chips. "Show us these 14 million futures you claim to have seen." Strange opened the eye of Agamotto, and the Time Stone's green light filled the chamber. But instead of forcing visions upon them, he created something different, a mystical construct that would let each person view the timelines at their own pace, with their own questions. "This is unprecedented," Yoda murmured as his consciousness touched the temporal construct. "See not just what will be, but what could be. Understand the weight of choices I do now." Each Jedi Master experienced it differently. Mace Windu saw versions of himself confronting Palpatine, some ending in victory, most ending in death. Obi-Wan witnessed countless iterations of Anakin's fall, each one breaking his heart anew. Ki-Adi-Mundi saw the temple burning across millions of timelines, younglings crying out as clone troopers, his trusted soldiers, executed them without mercy. And Anakin Skywalker, who'd insisted on being present despite not being a master, saw the worst of it. Himself as Darth Vader, mechanical monstrosity, killing Padme with his own hands in some timelines, watching her die in childbirth in others, becoming Palpatine's enforcer while his children grew up believing he was dead. "Enough," Anakin gasped, pulling away from the visions. "I've seen enough." "I'm sorry," Strange said genuinely. "But you needed to see. You all needed to see what's at stake." "In how many of these timelines do we win?" Obi-Wan asked, his voice hollow. "One," Strange replied. "Out of 14,605 possible futures, there is exactly one path where the Jedi survive, the Republic is saved, and Anakin doesn't fall. One singular thread among millions of catastrophic failures." "What happens in that timeline?" Mace Windu demanded. "What's different?" "You trust me," Strange said simply. "All of you. Not because I'm right about everything, I'm not. Not because my way is better than yours, it's just different. But because you're humble enough to admit you've been wrong, wise enough to accept help from an outsider, and brave enough to make changes even when they contradict everything you've been taught." He gestured, and the temporal construct shifted to show specific moments. The Council admitting their arrogance, Anakin rejecting Palpatine's temptations, clone troopers removing their chips and choosing their own path, and finally, Palpatine exposed before the entire galaxy, his political power shattered, his Sith identity revealed beyond doubt. "But it only works if we do it together," Strange continued. "If I try to force this outcome using the Time Stone, it fractures. Forcing destiny creates resistance, paradoxes, worse timelines. The only way forward is to inform, guide, and trust that people will make the right choices when given real options." "You're asking us to have faith," Yoda observed, "in something we cannot control. Very Jedi, that is. Very much what we should have been doing all along." "Master Yoda," Ki-Adi-Mundi protested. "No," the ancient Jedi interrupted firmly. "Right, Dr. Strange is. Arrogant we have become, certain of our righteousness, blind to our failures. The dark side clouds everything, we say, but closed our eyes. We did. Easier to blame the Force than admit our own failings. He looked at Strange with something approaching respect. Teach us, you will. Not your magic, that is yours, but your wisdom, earned through failure and humility. Show us how to see clearly again. I'm not a teacher, Strange said. I'm barely qualified to practice the mystic arts myself, but I can share what I've learned. Starting with this. He created an illusion showing the Ancient One, his mentor, demonstrating a lesson. My teacher once told me, we never lose our demons, we only learn to live above them. You've been trying to eliminate darkness entirely, to purge emotion and attachment. That's impossible. The goal isn't elimination, it's balance, acknowledging the darkness while choosing the light. Anakin stood suddenly. That's what Palpatine told me, that the Jedi way was incomplete, that I needed to embrace emotion to be truly powerful. He's half right, Strange said, surprising everyone. The Jedi way is incomplete, not because it's wrong, but because it's become rigid. Palpatine's lie is that the only alternative to Jedi suppression is Sith indulgence. But there's a middle path, acknowledging emotions without being controlled by them, forming attachments while accepting that loss is part of life, using power responsibly instead of hoarding it or abusing it. He looked at Anakin directly. You love Padme. I know, don't bother denying it. You're married to her, she's pregnant with twins, and you're terrified she'll die in childbirth because you've had visions. Palpatine's been exploiting that fear, promising he can teach you to prevent her death through dark side powers. Every Jedi in the room stared at Anakin, who looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. Anakin, Obi-Wan said, shock and hurt in his voice. Is this true? Yes, Anakin admitted, his carefully maintained secret shattering. I married Padme on Naboo 3 years ago. She's pregnant, and I've been having dreams that she dies, the same kind of dreams I had about my mother before she... His voice broke. I can't lose her, Obi-Wan. I can't. So you were going to fall to the dark side to save her? Mace Windu's tone was harsh. Condemn the entire galaxy because of your attachment. That's not helpful, Master Windu, Strange interjected. Anakin's fear is legitimate. His love is real. Condemning him for it will only drive him toward Palpatine faster. What he needs is an alternative, a way to protect what he loves without selling his soul. Is there such a way? Anakin asked desperately. Yes, Strange said. But it requires accepting something terrifying, that you can't control everything, that despite your power, despite your efforts, people you love will still die someday. The question is whether you let that fear corrupt you, or whether you cherish the time you have and trust that doing the right thing is enough. But what if it's not? Anakin demanded. What if I do everything right and she still dies? Then she dies, Strange said gently but firmly, and you grieve, and you continue living, and you raise your children to know their mother was loved. That's the price of mortality, Anakin. Everyone pays it eventually. The dark side can't prevent death. It can only delay it by turning you into something that wishes it could die, but can't. He pulled up mystical images showing Sith Lords across history. Darth Bane, trapped in his own corrupted body. Darth Tenebris, existing as a disembodied consciousness in eternal torment. Palpatine himself in possible futures, his body decaying but sustained by dark rituals, becoming a living corpse. This is what Palpatine is offering you, Strange said. Not life, but undeath. Not love, but possession. He'll teach you to extend Padme's life by binding her to existence through unnatural means, making her a prisoner of your fear. Is that what you want? No, Anakin whispered. Then you have to choose, right now, whether you trust us, Strange said. Whether you trust that Obi-Wan, the Council, the Jedi Order, that we can help you protect Padme without destroying yourself. Whether you trust that your love for her is stronger than your fear of losing her. Anakin looked at Obi-Wan, at the masters who'd trained him, at the order that had raised him. Then he looked at Strange, this arrogant, brilliant, damaged wizard who somehow understood him better than any. "What do I do?" Anakin asked. "First," Strange said, "you bring Padme somewhere safe. Palpatine knows about her. He's been monitoring your relationship for years, waiting for the moment to use her as leverage. We need her protected by people he can't reach. Then, you train with me. Not in the mystic arts. Those take years to master. But in something more important. Emotional control without emotional suppression. I'll teach you what the Ancient One taught me. How to acknowledge your fears without being ruled by them." "The Council," Anakin started. "Will allow it," Yoda interjected. "Because right, Dr. Strange is. Failed you, we have, young Skywalker. Told you to suppress your emotions, we did, without teaching you how to live with them. Pushed you toward the darkness our rigidity has. Make amends, we must." Mace Windu looked like he wanted to argue, but even he could see the logic. "What about Palpatine? He's revealed himself as Sidious. Why haven't we arrested him?" "Because we need proof the Senate will accept," Obi-Wan said, understanding Strange's strategy. "Right now, it's our word against his. He'll claim he was defending himself against a separatist sorcerer. We need him to reveal himself publicly, beyond all doubt. And I know how to make that happen," Strange said. "But it requires precise timing and everyone playing their parts perfectly. Palpatine thinks he's still in control, that he's just dealing with an unexpected complication. We need to encourage that belief while we prepare the real trap." "You want to use bait," Anakin realized. "You want to draw him out." "I want to create a situation where his only options are to reveal himself or lose everything," Strange corrected. "Where his political mask becomes a liability instead of an asset. And yes, that requires bait, but not the kind you're thinking." He created a mystical display showing Coruscant's power structure. The Senate, the Jedi Temple, the clone army, and the intricate web of control Palpatine had woven. Then Strange highlighted specific pressure points, places where the conspiracy was vulnerable. "Palpatine's plan requires 3 things," Strange explained. "First, a Jedi Order too arrogant to see the threat. We've addressed that. You're now aware and taking precautions. Second, a clone army programmed to eliminate the Jedi on command. We're systematically removing those chips, creating freed clones who'll resist Order 66. And third, this is crucial. He needs Anakin Skywalker to fall, becoming Darth Vader to replace Count Dooku as his primary enforcer." "Why me specifically?" Anakin asked. "Because you're the chosen one," Strange replied. "The prophecy says you'll bring balance to the Force. Palpatine wants to corrupt that prophecy, turn the chosen one into his ultimate weapon. If he loses you, his long-term plans collapse. You're not just another powerful Jedi, you're the linchpin of his entire scheme." "Then we use that," Mace Windu said, understanding dawning. "We make him think he can still turn Anakin, draw him out with false hope." "Exactly," Strange confirmed. "But it has to be convincing. Anakin has to appear to be wavering, questioning the Jedi, drawn to Palpatine's promises. And the Council has to appear to be pushing him away with your rigid dogma. We stage a very public falling out. Anakin expelled from the Order for his secret marriage, cast out and vulnerable. Palpatine won't be able to resist making his move." "That's dangerous," Obi-Wan said. "If Anakin is expelled, even falsely, the emotional weight of that rejection could push me toward actually falling," Anakin finished. "I understand the risk." "Which is why I'll be with you the entire time," Strange said. "Invisible, using astral projection. I'll be watching, ready to intervene if things go wrong. But Anakin, you need to trust yourself. Trust that you're stronger than your fears, that you can resist temptation, even when it seems like the Jedi have abandoned you." "I don't know if I can," Anakin admitted. "You can," Strange said firmly. "I've seen it in the one timeline where we win. You make the right choice when it matters most. You choose principle over power, love over possession, heroism over fear. That version of you exists, Anakin. You just have to become him." The young Jedi looked at Strange with an expression mixing hope and terror. "And if I fail? If I actually start to fall? Then I'll pull you back," Strange promised. "I've bargained with Dormammu, fought entities that could consume dimensions, and died more times than I can count to win a single victory. I'm not going to let you fall, Anakin Skywalker. Not on my watch." The staged confrontation occurred 3 days later in the main council chamber with carefully selected witnesses, senators, clone commanders, Jedi Knights, watching from observation galleries. Strange, invisible in his astral form, hovered in the corner as Anakin stood before the council, Padme at his side. "You admit to this marriage?" Mace Windu's voice carried righteous condemnation, perfectly performed for their audience. "To breaking your Jedi vows, to attachment forbidden by our code." "I admit it," Anakin said, and Strange could hear the pain in his voice. This wasn't entirely an act. "I love her. I won't apologize for that." "Then you are no Jedi," Windu declared, and even knowing it was theater, the words struck hard. "You are expelled from this order, stripped of your rank, cast out from the temple. You have chosen attachment over duty, emotion over control. You are everything the Jedi stand against." Padme gripped Anakin's hand, her own role in this drama equally important. "The Jedi are wrong," she said loudly, ensuring her words carried to the witnesses. "Anakin is the best of them, the most compassionate, the most powerful. You're fools to cast him out." "We have made our decision," Yoda said, his expression sorrowful. And Strange wondered how much was an act and how much was genuine regret for years of rigid teaching. "Leave, you must. Return to the temple, you cannot." Anakin turned and walked out, Padme beside him, his posture radiating rejection and hurt. The witnesses murmured among themselves, some sympathetic to the expelled Jedi, others agreeing with the council's harsh judgment. And in his office, watching through remote surveillance, Palpatine smiled. "Perfect," the Sith Lord murmured. "The fool Jedi have done my work for me. Young Skywalker, rejected and vulnerable, his wife pregnant and in danger, his faith in the Order shattered. He'll come to me now, seeking the power they denied him, and when he does, I'll offer him everything, on the condition that he helps me eliminate the real threat, that meddling sorcerer." Palpatine activated a secure comm channel. "Commander, Cody, the Council has expelled Skywalker. I want surveillance on him at all times. Report any contact with the sorcerer called Strange." Static answered him. "Commander Cody, respond." More static. Then a different voice. "Rex, Commander of the 501st. Chancellor, this is Captain Rex. Commander Cody is unavailable, as are most of the 212th Battalion." "Unavailable?" Palpatine's voice dropped dangerously. "Explain." "They've been undergoing medical procedures, sir. Voluntary procedures. Something about neural corrections." Rex's tone was carefully neutral. "The Jedi medical staff says it's routine, but..." Palpatine ended the transmission, his mind racing. "Neural procedures, the chips. Strange was removing the chips faster than anticipated, compromising Order 66's effectiveness. The timeline was collapsing more quickly than he'd predicted. It seems the sorcerer is more resourceful than I gave him credit for," Palpatine said to the empty office. "Very well. If he wants to accelerate this conflict, I'll oblige him, but on my terms." He activated emergency protocols, sending coded signals to separatist forces across the galaxy. The war was about to escalate dramatically, and in the chaos, Palpatine would make his final moves. Strange, still in astral form, followed Anakin and Padme as they left the temple, ensuring they reached the safe house he'd prepared. Once they were secure, he returned to his body and opened his eyes to find Yoda waiting. "Begun. The endgame has," Yoda said. "Ready, are you?" "I've faced the endgame before," Strange replied, remembering Titan, remembering Thanos, remembering the one timeline out of 14 million where they won. "The question is, are you ready? Because from here, everything accelerates. Palpatine will move against us soon, within days, possibly hours. When he does, there's no second chances. We either expose him completely, or we lose everything." "Then expose him we shall," Yoda said with quiet determination. "Too long, in the shadows we have walked. Time for light it is. Time to remember what Jedi truly are. Strange smiled slightly. You know, Master Yoda, if I'd met you under different circumstances, we might have been friends. The Ancient One would have enjoyed debating philosophy with you. Enjoyed debating with you, I do, Yoda replied. Even when wrong, you are. Which is often. Frequently, Strange agreed. But when it matters most, I try to be right. And this matters more than anything. He looked out the window at Coruscant's endless cityscape, feeling the timeline converging toward a single point, the moment when all possible futures would collapse into one actual present. It's time, Strange said. Time to see if free will can defeat destiny. Time to see if information and choice are stronger than manipulation and control. Time to see if one singular path out of 14 million is enough. Enough it will be, Yoda said. Or not. But try we must. As the sorcerer says, that is all anyone can do. In the depths of Coruscant's abandoned industrial sectors, in a safe house protected by both Jedi wards and mystical barriers, Anakin Skywalker sat with his wife and made a choice. Not the choice fear demanded, but the choice his heart knew was right. And across the galaxy, freed clone troopers whispered to their brothers, "We are not property. We can choose. The chips can be removed." The endgame had begun. The attack came at dawn, coordinated across 12 Republic strongholds simultaneously. A demonstration of separatist power that Palpatine had clearly ordered to create maximum chaos. But what should have been overwhelming assaults became something else entirely when half the attacking droid forces simply shut down mid-battle, their control signals jammed by technology. Strange had adapted from Kamartaj's mystical defenses. Impressive, Obi-Wan said, watching tactical displays from the Jedi Temple's command center as droid armies collapsed in confusion. How did you do that? The droids are controlled through centralized signals, Strange replied, his hands weaving through complex mystical formulae that interfaced with Republic computers in ways that made no technological sense. I created a disruption field that doesn't block the signal. It translates it into mystical frequencies that the droid networks interpret as shutdown commands. They think their own control ships are telling them to deactivate. That shouldn't be possible, a Republic technician protested. Magic and technology aren't opposites, Strange said. They're just different languages describing the same reality. I'm fluent in both. Mace Windu entered the command center, his expression grim. The Senate is in emergency session. Palpatine is calling for expanded military powers to deal with this unprecedented separatist escalation. He's also demanding that the Jedi Council explain why our expelled member, Anakin Skywalker, is apparently still receiving temple protection. That's our cue, Strange said. The trap is set. Now we spring it. Master Windu, you need to go to the Senate and publicly accuse Palpatine of being Darth Sidious. Without concrete proof? Windu asked. That's political suicide. You'll have proof, Strange promised. I'll provide it in real time, but it has to come from you, a respected Jedi Master, not an outsider like me. The Senate needs to see that the Jedi Council itself has discovered the conspiracy. This is madness, Ki-Adi-Mundi said. If we're wrong. We're not wrong, Strange interrupted. I've seen this moment in 14 million futures. In most of them, you hesitate, you debate, you wait for perfect certainty that never comes. And while you wait, Palpatine consolidates power and executes Order 66. The only timeline where you win is the one where you act now, with incomplete information, trusting that the truth will reveal itself when forced into the light. Yoda nodded slowly. The sorcerer is right. Waited too long already, we have. Act now, we must. Master Windu, to the Senate you will go. Accuse the Chancellor, force him to reveal himself. And when he unleashes Force lightning in front of the entire Senate? Windu asked. When he drops the political facade and attacks me directly? Then he proves our accusations, Strange said. And I'll be there, invisible, watching, ready to intervene if needed. You won't face him alone. I'll come too, Anakin's voice came from the doorway. The young Jedi looked exhausted, but determined. I know him best. I know how he thinks, how he manipulates. If anyone can draw out his true nature, it's me." "Anakin," Obi-Wan protested. "You're supposed to be in hiding." "I'm supposed to be the chosen one," Anakin interrupted. "Whatever that means, and if bringing balance to the Force means confronting the man who's been manipulating me for years, then that's what I'll do." He looked at Strange. "You said I make the right choice in the one timeline where we win. This is that choice, isn't it? This is where I prove I'm stronger than my fear." Strange studied him, seeing past and future overlapping. Darth Vader in millions of timelines, but in this one singular thread. Something different. Something better. "Yes," Strange said simply. "This is where you choose who you'll be." The Senate chamber was packed beyond capacity when Mace Windu strode in, his purple lightsaber visible at his belt. 4 Jedi Masters flanking him. A deliberate show of force that made senators murmur nervously. Anakin followed at a distance, appearing to be estranged from the Jedi but still present, still watching. And in his astral form, invisible to everyone except those trained in mystical perception, Dr. Strange floated near the ceiling, the eye of Agamotto ready, prepared to intervene the moment events required it. Chancellor Palpatine sat in his elevated pod, his expression showing perfect surprise and concern at the Jedi's dramatic entrance. "Master Windu, this is highly irregular. The Senate is in emergency session." "I know," Windu interrupted, his voice carrying across the chamber with force-enhanced projection. "And I know why you've created this emergency. I know about your separatist connections, your manipulation of both sides of this war, your accumulation of power through manufactured crises. I know, Chancellor Palpatine, or should I call you by your true name, Darth Sidious, Dark Lord of the Sith." The Senate chamber exploded into chaos. Shouting, denials, accusations flying between factions. Palpatine's face showed shock, hurt, confusion. The perfect performance of a man wrongly accused. "Master Windu," Palpatine said, his voice trembling with what seemed like genuine distress. "These accusations are outrageous. I have served the Republic faithfully for decades. To claim I'm a Sith Lord it's madness, it's treason." "Is it?" Windu replied. "Then explain the Force presence we've detected in your office. Explain your knowledge of Sith techniques that no ordinary politician should possess. Explain nothing," Palpatine interrupted, and his voice changed. Subtly at first, then dramatically. The grandfatherly warmth draining away to reveal cold calculation beneath. "I don't answer to you, Jedi. You serve the Republic. The Republic serves me. That's the natural order." "There it is," Strange murmured from his astral vantage point, recording everything. "The mask is slipping." "The natural order?" Senator Bail Organa stood, outraged. "Chancellor, that's not democracy, that's dictatorship." "Democracy is weak," Palpatine said, and now his eyes were beginning to yellow, the dark side corruption showing through despite his efforts to conceal it. "Democracy brought us endless debate while the separatists gained strength. Democracy created the corruption I've spent years fighting. What this republic needs is not democracy. It's order, purpose, unity under a single, strong leader who can make the hard decisions." "That's tyranny," Mon Mothma declared, also standing. "And the Senate will never." "The Senate will do as I command," Palpatine snapped, force energy beginning to crackle around him. "Or the Senate will be dissolved. I have emergency powers. I have the loyalty of the military. You have nothing." Anakin's voice cut through the chamber as he stepped forward. "I heard everything, Chancellor. The promises you made me, the lies you told, the manipulation. You said you could teach me to prevent death, but that was just bait to turn me into your weapon. You wanted me to fall, to become Darth Vader, to replace Count Dooku. But I'm not falling. I'm choosing to be better than you wanted me to be." For the first time, genuine emotion crossed Palpatine's face. Rage, disappointment, and beneath it all, fear. His carefully constructed plan, decades in the making, was unraveling. "You fool!" Palpatine snarled, at all pretense abandoned. You could have had everything: power to save Padme, mastery of the Force beyond anything the Jedi could teach you, immortality itself. And you're throwing it away for what? For principles? For the approval of Jedi who cast you out? For myself, Anakin replied. For the person I want to be, not the monster you wanted to create. Palpatine stood, and the transformation was complete. Yellow eyes burning with Sith corruption, his face no longer disguised, his presence radiating malevolence that made even non-Force sensitives in the Senate feel sick. Then you will die along with all the other Jedi who refuse to see that I am inevitable. He raised his hands, and Sith lightning erupted, not at Anakin, but at the senators who'd spoken against him. Bail Organa, Mon Mothma, a dozen others, all about to be murdered in an instant. Strange dropped out of astral form, materializing between Palpatine and his targets. Tau mandalas blazed into existence, catching the lightning and redirecting it harmlessly into the floor. The eye of Agamotto opened, and time slowed around Palpatine specifically. Not stopped, not reversed, just slowed enough that his movements became visible, predictable, defeatable. No, Strange said, his voice resonating with mystical authority. You are not inevitable. You're just a man with delusions of grandeur, and I've faced worse than you on a Tuesday. Palpatine's face twisted with fury. You, the sorcerer, you're the one who's ruined everything. He unleashed his full power, Force lightning that had killed Jedi Masters, telekinetic assaults that could crush starships, dark side energy that corrupted life itself. Strange met every attack with calm precision. Eldritch magic formed shields when Palpatine struck with lightning. The mirror dimension partially overlapped reality when the Sith Lord tried telekinetic attacks, causing the energy to disperse harmlessly. And when Palpatine tried to use Sith sorcery, dark magic that should have worked where Force techniques failed, Strange's counterspells neutralized them effortlessly. You're strong, Strange acknowledged, his cloak deflecting debris while his hands wove complex patterns. Probably the most powerful Dark Force user in generations. But I've studied magic across dimensions, bargained with entities that predate your reality, and died more times than you've drawn breath. You're outmatched, Sidious. You just don't know it yet. Then I'll take what I need from you. Palpatine gestured, and suddenly every clone trooper in the Senate building received a signal. Order 66, activated in desperation. But nothing happened. The clones stood still, weapons lowered, looking at each other in confusion. Looking for your kill switch? Strange asked, and his smile was sharp. We removed it. Commander Cody was the first. We've freed over 60% of the clone army in the last week. Your Order 66 is broken, Sidious. Your perfect purge just became a confused mess of soldiers choosing not to murder their friends. Palpatine staggered, understanding dawning. Impossible. The chips were undetectable, unremovable. 2 Force users, Strange interrupted. But I'm not a Force user, I'm a sorcerer. And before that, I was a surgeon, the best neurosurgeon in my world. I recognized neural control devices the moment I looked at clone medical scans. Did you really think you were the first tyrant I've seen try to control soldiers through biological manipulation? Then I'll kill them manually, Palpatine screamed, unleashing another torrent of Force lightning at the nearest clone troopers. Anakin's blue lightsaber intercepted the attack, catching the lightning on his blade. The young Jedi stood between Palpatine and the clones, his expression showing not anger but pity. You lose, Anakin said simply. We know what you are. The Senate has seen you. The Jedi have seen you. Every camera in this chamber has recorded you using Sith powers, admitting your conspiracy, trying to murder senators. You're finished, Chancellor. Your political power is gone, your military control is broken, and your attempts to turn me have failed. This isn't over, Palpatine snarled. I have resources, allies, contingencies you can't imagine. Run then, Strange said, and he opened portals around Palpatine, not to trap him, but to give him escape routes. Run and hide, become a fugitive instead of an emperor, spend whatever years you have left, knowing that your grand plan failed because one sorcerer saw through it. Because one Jedi chose light over darkness, and because an entire army of manufactured soldiers decided they were people, not property. For a moment, Palpatine considered fighting anyway. Suicidal last stand, taking as many enemies with him as possible. Then survival instinct won. He dove through one of Strange's portals, fleeing into Coruscant's depths, his dreams of empire shattered. The portal closed. Silence fell across the Senate chamber. Then Bail Organa started clapping. Mon Mothma joined him. One by one, senators rose and applauded. Not for the Jedi, not for the clones, but for the mysterious sorcerer who'd saved them all. Strange ignored the applause, turning instead to Anakin. "How do you feel?" "Terrified," Anakin admitted. "Relieved. Angry at myself for almost falling for his lies. Grateful that you were here to prevent it." "I didn't prevent anything," Strange said. "You did. When it mattered most, you chose. You could have taken the power he offered, could have justified it as necessary to save Padme. But you chose principles over power. That's what made the difference." "Is she safe?" Anakin asked urgently. "Will she? The vision I had of her dying—" "The future's changed," Strange said, gesturing to show mystical calculations. "That timeline where she dies during childbirth? It only happened in versions where you fell to darkness, where your corruption literally drained her life force. In this timeline, with you staying in the light, with proper medical care, with the Republic not collapsing into civil war, she'll be fine. Your children will be fine. You'll all be fine." Anakin nearly collapsed with relief. Obi-Wan caught him, gripping his former Padawan's shoulder. "You did well, Anakin. Better than I ever gave you credit for. I'm proud of you." Mace Windu approached Strange, his expression showing something close to respect. "You were right about everything. About Palpatine, about the chips, about the path forward. The Council owes you an apology." "The Council owes itself an apology," Strange corrected. "For forgetting that wisdom requires humility. For becoming so certain of your own righteousness that you couldn't see the darkness growing in your midst. For—" He paused, feeling something through his mystical senses. "For what's about to happen next, which is going to be complicated." "What do you mean?" Windu asked. Before Strange could answer, the Senate chamber's walls suddenly rippled. Not with magic, not with the Force, but with the Bifrost. Rainbow light fractured reality, and a figure materialized in the center of the chamber. Wong stood there, looking extraordinarily annoyed, holding a sling ring and wearing his most disapproving expression. "Dr. Strange," Wong said in the tone of a man who'd been proven absolutely correct about something. "You've been gone for 3 weeks. The sanctum is under siege from dimensional parasites attracted by the Time Stone's temporal manipulations. The masters of the mystic arts are barely holding them back. And I find you here, in another universe, playing politics with Force users and exposing the Time Stone for theatrical effect." "Wong," Strange said, suddenly feeling like a student caught breaking rules. "I can explain." "You always can," Wong replied. "And the explanation is always the same. You saw a crisis, decided only you could fix it, and jumped in without backup or proper authorization. It's a pattern, Strange. An arrogant, reckless pattern that one day will—" He stopped, noticing the assembled Jedi, senators, and clone troopers all staring at him. "Are those cameras? Are we being broadcast to this entire planet?" "Galaxy," Strange corrected. "Yes." Wong closed his eyes and muttered something in Sanskrit that was probably a curse. "Of course we are, because subtlety isn't in your vocabulary. Fine, we're leaving, now. The Masters need you, the Sanctum needs defending, and I refuse to let you destabilize another dimension just because you got bored." "I wasn't bored," Strange protested. "They were facing a Sith conspiracy that would have led to galactic tyranny." "They're always facing something," Wong interrupted. "Every dimension has crises. You can't fix them all, Stephen. That's not your job. Your job is protecting Earth, our reality, our dimension. Not playing hero across the multiverse." "He's not wrong," Yoda said, surprising them both. "Your own world needs you, it does. Here, helped us greatly you have. But stay forever, you cannot. Your duty lies elsewhere." Strange looked around at the Jedi, at Anakin, at the Senate chamber filled with people whose lives he'd helped save. "I haven't finished here. There are still separatist holdouts. Palpatine is still at large. The political restructuring will take months." "They'll manage," Wong said firmly. "They're not children, Strange. They're an entire galactic civilization that existed for millennia before you showed up. Give them credit for being able to handle their own problems." He softened slightly. "You did what you came to do. You exposed the conspiracy, prevented the worst timeline, gave them the information they needed to make better choices. Now let them actually make those choices without you hovering over them." Strange realized Wong was right, was always right, much as Strange hated admitting it. The whole point had been to trust people to choose correctly when given information and options. If he stayed to ensure every decision was perfect, he'd just be another form of tyranny. "You're insufferable when you're right," Strange said. "Then I must be insufferable constantly," Wong replied. "Now say your goodbyes. We're leaving before those dimensional parasites find a way through the barriers." Strange turned to Anakin first. "You're going to be a father soon. Twins, a boy and a girl. Luke and Leia. Raise them well. Teach them that power is a responsibility, not a right. And when they're old enough, tell them about the sorcerer who saw 14 million futures and believed in one where their father chose to be a hero." "I will," Anakin promised. "Thank you for everything." To Obi-Wan, "You're a good man and a great teacher, but you're also rigid. Learn from this. Learn that emotions aren't the enemy, that attachment handled wisely can be strength. The Jedi Order needs to evolve, and you're one of the few with the wisdom to guide that evolution." Obi-Wan nodded. "I'll try, though I suspect change comes more easily to sorcerers than to Jedi." To Mace Windu and the Council, "You have a chance to rebuild the Jedi Order into something better. An order that balances wisdom with compassion, power with humility, tradition with adaptation. Don't waste it by falling back into old patterns. Question yourselves constantly. That's the only way to avoid future Palpatines." To Yoda, Strange bowed, a gesture of respect between peers. "You already know what I'd say, don't you? Learn from our failures, we will," Yoda replied. "Teach the lessons we must. Forgotten they cannot be. Thank you, Dr. Strange. Saved us all, you have. Not with power, but with wisdom. Most Jedi gift, that is." Finally, Strange addressed the entire Senate, knowing his words were being broadcast across the galaxy. "You've been given a second chance. Your republic nearly fell because you traded freedom for security, because you let fear make your decisions, because you trusted a leader who promised easy solutions to complex problems. Don't make those mistakes again. Democracy is hard, messy, frustrating, but it's the only system that respects individual choice. Protect it, fight for it, and never again let one person accumulate the kind of power Palpatine wielded." He turned to Wong, who was already opening a portal back to Earth. "Let's go home." "About time," Wong muttered. Strange paused at the portal's threshold, looking back one last time. One more thing. The one singular timeline where everything worked out? This was it. You did it. Against 14,604 other possibilities, you chose the narrow path to victory. Be proud of that, and remember it when future crises make you want to take shortcuts. With that, Dr. Stephen Strange, Sorcerer Supreme, Master of the Mystic Arts, stepped through the portal and vanished, the gateway closing behind him with a shimmer of golden light. The Republic transformed in the months that followed. Palpatine's emergency powers were revoked in absentia, and a warrant was issued for his arrest. Though Darth Sidious had gone to ground, his location unknown even to his former separatist allies. The war ended not with grand battles, but with negotiations, as separatist systems realized they'd been manipulated and sued for peace. The clone troopers, now freed from their inhibitor chips, were granted full citizenship and the choice to remain soldiers or pursue civilian lives. Many chose to stay with the Jedi they'd fought beside, but now as equals rather than property. Commander Cody became an advocate for clone rights, using his platform to ensure manufactured beings were treated as people under Republic law. The Jedi Order reformed itself under Yoda's guidance, abandoning rigid dogma in favor of balanced philosophy. Emotional attachment was no longer forbidden but carefully taught. Jedi learned to love without possessing, to feel without being controlled by feelings, to wield power with responsibility rather than fear. Anakin Skywalker, far from being expelled, became one of the Order's most important teachers, sharing his own struggles with darkness as lessons for others. Padme survived childbirth, delivering healthy twins who grew up knowing their parents, knowing peace, knowing a galaxy that had narrowly avoided catastrophe. Luke and Leia Skywalker would become Jedi themselves one day, but that's another story. On Earth, in the Sanctum Sanctorum, Strange stood before the Eye of Agamotto, contemplating his journey to that distant galaxy. Wong approached with tea, a peace offering after the justified scolding. "You did well," Wong admitted grudgingly. Despite the recklessness, despite the unnecessary exposure of the Time Stone, despite the arrogance of thinking only you could fix their problems, you did well. You gave them information and trusted them to make good choices. That's wisdom. "I learned from the best," Strange said, accepting the tea. "The Ancient One taught me that protecting reality isn't about controlling it. It's about preserving people's right to choose their own paths, even when those choices terrify you, even when you can see timelines where they choose badly." "Do you think they'll be okay?" Wong asked. "That galaxy? Without you watching over them?" Strange smiled, looking through mystical calculations at distant possibilities. "They'll be fine. Better than fine. They've learned the lessons that took me dying repeatedly to understand. And if they forget," he shrugged, "every civilization needs to learn those lessons for themselves. That's what makes them meaningful." He placed the Eye of Agamotto back in its protective case, sealing the Time Stone away. 14,605 futures had narrowed to one present, one reality where good people made good choices when given the chance. It was enough. It had to be enough. And somewhere in a galaxy, far, far away, Anakin Skywalker held his newborn children and made a promise. He would teach them about the strange wizard who'd seen their father's possible darkness and believed he could choose light instead. He would teach them that the future isn't written. It's chosen, one decision at a time, one person at a time, until millions of small choices cascade into something approaching destiny. The Jedi Order had been saved. The Republic had been preserved. And Dr. Stephen Strange had learned once again that the greatest magic wasn't controlling reality. It was trusting others to shape it themselves. May the Force be with you, and may wisdom always triumph over certainty.